there's 4 frogs on a log, and one of those frogs decides to jump off. So now how many frogs are left on the log? Well, the vast majority of people will say, well, 3, because one decided to jump off. And point of the story is no, there's still 4 frogs on the log. Deciding is not taking action. Deciding is not jumping. And a lot of ideas die on the vine. A lot of great businesses that could have been amazing and helped a lot of people and created jobs and created wealth never happened because people decide, but they don't jump. And the men are separated from the boys and the women from the girls by those who jump and do it.
In this episode, I talk with Roger Martin, a former C-suite executive for Big Pharma turned entrepreneur. We talk about why he started his own first business, the importance of values, the things that he gets right that most other people get wrong, and how he's growing his third business involving franchises. Roger has built a 30-year career in sales, marketing, and C-level leadership. He is the co-founder of 2 national franchise brands, RockBox Fitness and Beam Light Sauna. He currently serves as the CEO for RockBox. His latest venture, Thrive More Autopilot, helps small and mid-sized brick-and-mortar businesses generate more leads, nurture those leads, and get more customers to walk through the door to become paying customers. Roger has led teams as large as 500 people and knows the importance of clear and high-impact communication. He has extensively studied human behavior, persuasion, and influence throughout his career, and he's trained thousands of people on how to communicate more effectively and inspirationally. He is the host of the Thrive More with Roger Martin podcast and author of the book, An Insider's Guide to Business, Secrets from an Entrepreneur's Playbook. Roger has graciously provided a free success guide that can be downloaded from our website, iCreeRichPeople.com. Let's dive in. Roger Martin, it's so great to see you again.
Yeah, man, good to see you. It's been a couple of weeks here since we were in person at that event. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. You are such a fascinating guy that I connected with you and said, you've got to be on the podcast because I think your background is really going to resonate with a lot of our entrepreneurs. Before we get into your backstory, I do have one question for you. You're a tall guy. I'm a tall guy. I tend to be a sloucher. You are not. You have this like perfect posture. So I'm sure that's not going to resonate with every entrepreneur out there, but do you have a habit or a routine or something that you do to take care of your posture? Because I know that how we hold ourselves affects how we see the world and all of that. What's your advice for that?
So it's funny you say that because I don't feel like I do, even though I am very cognizant of it. And if I catch myself, I just did about 3 minutes ago sitting here talking to you, and I sit back up. So I have to catch myself. But you're right. How you hold yourself is how people perceive you. And so I don't have a magic trick or something, but I can share with you that it's something that I'm cognizant of. I don't always have great posture. You being a tall guy also, I think my son's 6'6", I'm 6'4". You know, I watch him to bend down to kind of get to people's level. So I think what we're doing as tall people is we're trying to just get eye to eye with people so that we can have a great conversation. Yet that is really a soft and almost a submissive position when you're bent over like that. So I would, no matter what your height, just step back a few inches, to be able to get eye to eye. But yeah, I thank you for the compliment. And no, I don't have a secret to it, but it is something that everybody should be cognizant of because how you carry yourself says a lot to the other person who you're working with.
For sure.
Yeah.
You have a background as an executive in pharmaceutical sales or pharmaceuticals. Tell us a little bit about that. How'd you get into that? And tell us about your path.
Yeah, because I'm a late bloomer as an entrepreneur. I came out of undergrad at 22 years of age and went to work for Eli Lilly, a pharmaceutical company. And I was a sales rep, carrying the bag of pills and stuff into the doctor's office and convincing him or her why our products were superior and had fewer adverse events and all that. I ended up getting into management and then into executive leadership and into the C-suite, all in that industry for different companies, and ended up moving my family 8 times in the first 14 years, and then ended up in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I am now for the last 17. And I've worked for publicly traded companies, Fortune 50s, foreign companies, and private equity was kind of my last stint. The last 11, 12 years I spent with private equity or a family office that owned, a pharmaceutical plant, and I was in charge of running that plant and growing the business and whatnot. So yeah, I spent the majority of my adult, business career was spent in corporate America. And so if you have listeners that are in corporate America but looking to make that jump into entrepreneurship or just starting their entrepreneur journey, I can relate because I've been on the other side, and I finished my stint after 25 years on a Friday, and on a Monday I woke up an entrepreneur with no salary, no health insurance, no dental insurance, no 401k, nothing, and have been through that journey. So I think corporate America prepares you for entrepreneurship, but nothing can quite prepare you for what you're about to embark on if you're an entrepreneur.
So, how did you cross that chasm? How did
Mm,
you have the entrepreneurial seizure? Because when you're working in the corporate world, there is some stability and security.
mm,
Not
yeah.
having to be the lead dog in the pack and find every new crumb or every new item out there. So, how did you make that change?
Yeah. I would say, and I'm very fortunate. I've never been unemployed a day in my life. The only day I've ever been unemployed was the day I became an entrepreneur, right? And I had to start my business. So I'm very, very fortunate. I've been through layoffs. I've just never been laid off, and I've had to do layoffs, which is a terrible feeling. But so I didn't have the fear of losing a job, like I know drives a lot of people. And I've seen, I have family and friends that have been through that. And it's a terrible thing. You go to work on a Tuesday and come home Tuesday night, and you're unemployed. It's a real thing in corporate America, and I understand why the businesses have to do it. I've never gotten mad at a business because they have to survive, and to survive, they may have to lower labor costs. But for me, that it just came to the point where I'll tell you the quick story. I mean, the quick story, and I've told this many times, is Matt, I was in Barcelona, Spain. I should have been on a full expense account, chief executive or chief operating officer at the time, and I was at a huge convention, pharmaceutical convention over there. And I'm looking over, I'm in our booth, and I'm, my sharp suit and tie and all that, my polished wingtips, and I'm overlooking this sea of nameless faces, and I just started to have disdain for like 5,000 people in this exhibit hall. But that was just for like a millisecond, and then I realized it's not them, it's me. These people are fine. That's me. I'm unhappy. I'm not thriving in what I'm doing right now. And it didn't matter how much money I was making, the title, having somebody waiting, for with in an airport for me with with a sign with my name on it. Like all that just it became unimportant to me. And the status that comes with a C-suite, and the status that I got tired of chasing that brass ring. It wasn't keeping up with the Joneses. I've always lived well beneath my means. I'm not about that, but I'm definitely about the next brass ring. And corporate America rewards that behavior, right? I always say I was positively rewarded for kind of negative behavior, meaning that workaholism, that, being the guy, even in corporate America, that would find the next crumb, that would find the next thing, and really exploit that. I am huge on execution, but, I was driving myself into the ground, and really pushing incredibly hard, and wasn't happy, just wasn't happy. And you get those golden handcuffs. Like when you're making a multi 6-figure salary, and you've got stock options and this and that and the other and all the perks that come with it, that is hard. Like a 22-year-old kid that becomes an entrepreneur, I'm thinking, well, you're really not risking much because you don't have much to lose to begin with, right? I mean, and I applaud them. Like, go for it. If you want to be an entrepreneur, and you're 22 and you have a great idea, you've done some market test fit, go for it. It's just, man, you try that at 46 and you've got 2 kids, you still have to put through college. You went through a divorce for 5 years prior, which of course takes half your wealth. You have all of this that you could lose. It makes it a different decision, but that decision still was pretty easy for me once I had done all the due diligence and what I was about to embark on. And we can talk about that. But I didn't just jump into it. It wasn't just like on a Friday, okay, I quit. This was a several month plan of also finding my successor and offloading, to C-level. You really can't, you don't just give 2 weeks, you have a succession plan and you go through that. So it was very, very, very well thought out, but don't let anybody kid you. Any listener that's listening, just know you will not have all the answers. You won't even have a fraction of them when you start. And you will experience a lot of pain when you begin, but that is the highest growth. That's the steepest learning curve you'll ever go up. And I have an MBA, and it's, that in a quarter will get you a cup of coffee. Like it's about actually doing it and executing. And that has to be lived to be appreciated. And that's why you see entrepreneurs kind of, they click, because we all get what the other is going through.
Hey, real quick, we're building a community of entrepreneurs helping entrepreneurs. These are people just like you who want to start or grow their businesses and are ready to take the next step. If that sounds like something you want to be a part of, sign up and join us today. The pharmaceutical industry has gotten a bad rap for multiple reasons.
Yeah.
They do a lot of good, and I think in some ways the media is right about it. Do you think that was contributing kind of to your disconnect and wanting to distance yourself from it?
Mm, good question. It's funny. I've never been asked that. I've been asked about the pharma industry, but never that question around my motivation. It was not my motivation to, I will tell people, I had armies of sales reps and people working underneath me that, I say sold pills that treated people but never cured them, right? You don't want to cure them because then
Yeah.
you lose a customer.
Yeah.
Um, ethically, I don't like that. And I'm not for that, but it wasn't, that really wasn't, I think what I got into was a complete, and I got into health and fitness, and that was a complete 180 from the pharma industry, because pharma doesn't push preventative health. They push treatment of current acute issues and chronic diseases. But I'm publicly, I've said this many times, is big pharma gets a bad rap because, and it was like, well, wait a second, vaccines and all that. And, there's, um, you know, all kinds of political stuff around that, and all of the medicines and why they cost so much more here than overseas, and yada yada yada. Yep, you're absolutely right, and you're right that some of the news media publishes some real not good stuff about big pharma, and it's true. Right up to the point that your grandmother is really sick and in the hospital, and she needs one of those life-saving drugs that big pharma invested in and took the risk to develop. Then they're not so bad. So I would say that it's like everything, and the truth is in the middle. There's some amazing, great stuff that the pharmaceutical and medical industry does, and there's some not very good stuff and downright dirty politics that are played in that business. But that's true of our entire economy. It's certainly true in our medical system. Our medical system is broken. Like I shared this on another interview. It's broken. It's broken from top to bottom. Everything about it is broken. Not the people. The people want to do the right thing, but the system, like our federal government, has gotten so bloated, so big, so many people involved, that it's not about caring for the patient. It's driven, of course, by profit motives, as capitalism should be. But man, when it's subsidized by tax dollars, that's when I've got a problem with it. Yeah,
Yeah, it seems to me like they're incentivizing the wrong thing. So we could probably talk a long time about
for
this
sure.
issue, but I really want to share your entrepreneurial journey. And I want to circle back to your pain point because you said as an entrepreneur, there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of unknown, and a lot of pain. Can you unpack that?
Yeah. You don't know what you don't know, which is true of any venture that you get into, and you'll quickly find out what you don't know. But I think the pain is too many people, me included, will build a business, start a business, and think once we start it, once we kind of get the word out, and once we talk about it, well, they'll come. It's the field of dreams model, right? I'll build it and they will come. And what I quickly learned, and I share with any entrepreneur that will listen to me, is you are in the sales and marketing business. Full stop. No, no, I'm in healthcare. No, you're in the sales and marketing business. No, no, I'm in fitness. No, you're in the sales and marketing. No, I'm in the restaurant business. No, you're in the sales and marketing business. You just happen to have food or healthcare or a workout as the product, but the business is a sales and marketing business. And very, 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 very few businesses are not driven by sales and marketing. And too often, the pain that I experience and that I see so many entrepreneurs experience is they open shop and then they wait by the storefront, or they wait by the phone or whatever. And you have got to go out into the world and earn those customers. You have got to go out and build that. If you want to really scale, if you want to have a solopreneur thing, you probably don't have to go as hard. And it'd be a nice lifestyle business. But if you're trying to grow a platform, an actual business that employs many people and creates jobs and creates wealth, then for sure you have to understand you're in the sales and marketing business. And if you're not good at, that's okay. Go find a mentor, or really, I would say more of a consultant, to help you, who is proven in your industry to know what they're doing. They've already done it. So many, too many gurus online now that have never done what they're selling and teaching you to do, which is blows them. It's crazy. Like, how is there a 21-year-old life coach? Like, what the hell is it? And again, I've got a 21-year-old and a 24-year-old, so I'm not bagging on young people. I love young people, and I love my kids, and I love Gen Z, because They see the world in a different way and a cool perspective. But you know, I didn't. I was good at sales, great at sales. I could improve my marketing chops, and so the first two hires I made when I started RockBox Fitness, the franchise that I started, which is a boxing for fitness, group workout franchise. My first two hires were marketing consultants, one on the West Coast and one on the East Coast that I had worked with prior, to get the branding right, to get the messaging right, to get the look and feel, not just the logo, not just the color palette, but the look and feel and tonality of the brand right. Because I knew that had to be right. If not, you just redo it years later for even more money. But two, going to market, then you can focus on customer acquisition and not having to fix the stuff that should have been, right off the start. So long-winded answer, like most of mine are, but I would say, Matt, you know, people need to understand no matter what they're doing, they're in the sale. You're trying to recruit students. You're in the sales and marketing business, and the certification, the education is just the product that you're selling, but you're in the sales and marketing business. And when
A lot of
entrepreneur, yeah, go ahead.
a lot of people tend to get sales and marketing mixed up. They get it confused. They don't know what the definition is. Am I doing sales? Am I doing marketing? How do you define those two? How do you differentiate those two?
Yeah. Let's actually take it one level higher and go branding, marketing, sales, because people confuse branding and marketing all the time. And they're two very different things. Branding is the feeling that you get by interacting with a company. It's the feeling that you're left with. It's and the best example I've ever heard of this was Seth Godin, marketing guru, legit guru. And, he's quoted as saying the difference between, a strong brand and a bland or weak one. He goes, if Nike were to create a hotel, you would know and already kind of have a feeling for what that hotel would be like. But if Hyatt were to create a tennis shoe, we have no idea what that tennis shoe would be like, right? Because
Oh,
Nike has a strong brand. They're an icon driven brand. Hyatt's a great product, but even though I'm a Marriott guy, but Hyatt's a great product, but it's not, it doesn't have there's not a strong feeling around it. And so branding is what you stand for, your values, and the feeling that you can give your customers and your employees. Marketing is a direct, and branding ads would be just a reminder of who you are and what you are. Marketing is more direct response. I am showing you, creative copy, something, a commercial, an ad, a picture, whatever it is, and I'm asking you to take a direct action. I'm asking you to do something. Matt, book a call. Matt, go to the store and buy this. Matt, order this online right now. Matt, download this app. I'm giving you a direction. I'm saying, here's the message, here's the benefit to you, and here's exactly what I need you to do next. That's marketing, not branding. Branding is how you feel. Marketing is what do I want the customer to do? And then
so
sales,
marketing includes the call to action then,
exactly. And
the
sales,
next step. And then there's going to be a sales appointment from this, I'm guessing.
there you go. And that can happen in a very, collapsed thing. So, hey, here's a new shirt you see on Instagram. They're advertising, click here to see selection. You click that. That's a call to action. You clicked it. Now you've now engaged. Now you're in there. Buy this, and here's an offer you get or a guarantee or whatever. There's the sales part of it, like for an e-commerce. But for a more complicated, longer sale, it's going to be here's how it feels working with us. Here's what we can do for you, and the call to action. And then you get them on a phone call, or you meet them in person, or you demonstrate, you trial your product or whatever, and then you ask for money. Sales is asking for money. And a lot of people, they get branding because it's sexy. They kind of understand marketing, but they're scared to death to ask for money. And as an entrepreneur, you've got to be unabashedly about, give me your credit card, or wire the funds. Like, you have to, or you will starve to death.
Yeah, I think new entrepreneurs have that discomfort and they need to get over that discomfort as fast as possible. And, why not do it on day one? Say, this is terrible. This sucks. But if you're running from it, just get after it and it gets a
Yeah.
lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You and I, we met through that self-development seminar that we're at for 4 days. And what did he have us do? He had us practice, and he said, you're going to suck. Just keep sucking. That's okay. But get the
Yeah.
suck out of the way now. So in the real world, you're ready to do this. And that's the way to just go, and you'll get better every single time. But it's about I'm not novel in saying this, but it is 99% execution, the 1% planning and strategy and all that. That's important. But man, the world suffers from a lack of execution, not ideas.
Absolutely. You have a great model in your book about the four frogs sitting on a log. Do you want to tell that story
Sure, sure. And
and
certainly,
talk about your book a little bit as
sure.
well?
And the book I'm talking about, all proceeds go to a charity called To Right Love in Her Arms. I've never met a red cent off this book. I don't plan to. Whatever Amazon doesn't take, if you buy a hard copy or the Kindle, all the other proceeds go to this mental health charity that help people that are committing self-harm or contemplating suicide get better. But yeah, in the book, and certainly it's not my story. I stole it from somebody. There are four frogs. I try to demonstrate what really taking action is, and there's four frogs on a log, sitting on a log, and one of those frogs decides to jump off. So now, how many frogs are left on the log? Well, the vast majority of people will say, well, three, because one decided to jump off. And point of the story is no, there's still four frogs on the log. Deciding is not taking action. Deciding is not jumping. And a lot of ideas die on the vine. A lot of great businesses that could have been amazing and helped a lot of people and created jobs and created wealth never happened because people decide, but they don't jump. And the men are separated from the boys and the women from the girls by those who jump and do it. And the air gets pretty thin when you get to that point. I've just watched so many people. I had a great boss once, and I said, "Hey, yeah, this person I know started a business, and they're really excited." And he said, "Do they have any customers yet?" I said, "Well, not yet." He goes, "Then they don't have a business; they have an idea." It's like,
Mm,
"Ooh, oh,
wow.
really?" You got to go. Like an idea means nothing. Go out and get somebody to give you money. Now you've got a business.
Yeah, I
Yep.
love that. I was just talking to a coaching client this morning, and we were talking about the four C's. And this comes from Dan Sullivan's book. I think it's called The Four C's, and they are commitment, courage, capability, and confidence. And most people don't take that very first step because they don't feel confident. And in this whole formula, confidence is actually the last thing that happens. So the first thing is commitment, deciding to jump off that log, right?
Mhm.
That's the commitment. I'm going to do it, and then you do it, and you have the courage to do it. So that would be step two. And then number three is capability. And so many people are focused on this capability. Well, I don't know how I'm going to build my business. You don't need to know how. You just need to commit to seeing it through to the end, making whatever you want to make, having the courage to do it, getting the capability, and then confidence comes after. It comes at the very last thing. And as you said, as an entrepreneur, you are going to feel unconfident, or if that's even a
Yeah.
word, like not confident for a long time. And you're going to go back and forth between this. I feel great. I feel terrible. I feel great. I feel terrible. And there's a great animation from this or a thing. And it's like the entrepreneurial journey. Heck yes. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh crap. Oh crap. Oh crap. Right. Have you felt any of those? Have you ever made a mistake as an entrepreneur? You've got three successful launches, I'm assuming, but I'm guessing you never made a mistake, Roger.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you that yay. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Yay. Oh no. Oh, no. It's 12:30 p.m. my time. That's already happened 5 dozen times to me this morning, right? That's
Yes.
entrepreneurship. So yeah, I love how you said confidence comes at the end. Confidence comes from an undeniable mountain of evidence that you did what you said you were going to do. And you are going to make mistakes. I've made in my book, which is called An Insider's Guide to Business: Secrets from an Entrepreneur's Playbook. It's the secrets because I have done things wrong as many or more times than I've done things right, and I talk about those through story format in the book so that people can understand, even from the outside, when it looks like, oh, it's all roses and it's great and no, let me take you behind the curtain and show you what was really going on and how crazy things really were. But I just refuse to give up. And in so many times in my life, in business especially, where it just, I was at my wit's end and it was that, oh no, oh no, oh no. I couldn't even see the light at the end of the tunnel, but I just said, I got to keep going until I see the light. Like I just can't stop. The only way out is through. And that's a little bit of stubbornness. That's a little bit of ego. I think all of us that are entrepreneurs have a teeny bit of narcissism because we've said to the world, we think we can do this just a little bit better than anybody else who's done it before. And
Yep.
that's good. That's okay. That's healthy. And so all those wrapped up together have just allowed me to continue to press through. And I've got a very, very supportive spouse who encourages me to go for it. But that, yeah, that Matt, we don't have enough time in this podcast to talk about the mistakes I've made, but again, they're in the book, and I bear my soul in it. And just know, the listener should know it's okay to make a mistake, because you're either going to win, which you don't learn a lot when you win, or you're going to learn. And that doesn't mean you failed. It just means you learned. You learned what not to do, how not to do something. And what, Thomas Edison, I've learned 10,000 ways not to make a light bulb or whatever. You have to go through some of that process. And here's the big proverbial but. You don't have to go through all of the pain. Stand on, the shoulders of giants, so to speak, and read biographies of very successful people. Read, you know, stories of people that have been there before you, and learn from those mistakes. And don't, what I've done too often is, well, I'm just gonna power my way through what they struggle with. They're, the answer's right there in the book. Like, before you take the test, the answer key is right there. And if we can get past our ego, if we can get past that uncertainty and lack of confidence, and just know it'll come, you're going to be much better off if you can ask for help up front, hire the right people up front, find the right mentor. I do kind of get over, I'm over the whole, will you be my mentor? Will you be my mentor? That I get that. I think that's an in vogue thing to ask for now, but real mentorship is not necessarily formalized. It can be, but real mentorship is building your network and finding the people that have the answers that you don't have yet, that are willing to share that with you. And it could be a call on a Wednesday morning. Just, hey, do you have 10 minutes? I'm struggling with this. You've probably been there, done that. Can you help me? Or do you know somebody who can? I think formal mentorship is fine. I've just seen, I personally have benefited from seeking out the stuff when I need it, and finding it through podcasts like this, and books and autobiographies, and stories that are writing about and telling the story of what I'm trying to do. If it's already been done, let me learn from that. And believe me,
Absolutely.
listen to what I'm saying, not what I've done, but listen to what I'm saying. Yeah.
No, I think you're spot on. That's one of the things we're doing with I See Rich People is we're a community of entrepreneurs helping other entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
I have certainly made mistakes. You've made mistakes. And by sharing the stories of entrepreneurs who have been there, done that, made a mistake, and figured a way out, you don't have to go through the same mistakes we did. Be original, find your own, right?
Yeah.
And to the people who are unwilling or unable to read a book, I'm always flabbergasted by that, because to me, you've got about 10 years worth of wisdom compressed into a book that costs about the price of 2 or 3 cups of coffee. And why would you not want to save 10 years of your life and a couple hours to listen to or read a great book? Inspiring stories, to me, I just put it all in my backpack. And then
Yep.
one day it comes out and I'll be like, oh, I need an idea on this. Who could I ask? Right? You don't have to know it all, but who in your network could you ask? Who could you call? Somebody's been there, somebody's done that.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
You talk a little bit about values and the importance of values, and how, as a new entrepreneur, everything should kind of circle around values. Can you explain why that's so important?
Yeah. Matt, I also learned this a little later in life, because in corporate America, every company has mission, vision, and values. And it may be on a wall somewhere, but usually it's in an ops manual at the bottom of my desk, right? And you never look at it again, and it's never referred to. I was fortunate to have a business partner who helped me understand the importance of values in your business, and that's how you run your business. And what I mean by that is, you create your values, two, three, five, six, shouldn't be more than 5 or 6 at the most, but you create your set of non-negotiables. And I'll give you an example. RockBox, it makes a cute acronym. RockBox Fitness, our values are faster, fun, accountability, service, trust, energy, and results. And each one of those, like energy, well, yeah, be the first to smile, be the meet somebody, more than halfway, show up bigger than the person you're going to be interacting with. Results, it's research proven and tried, and we know our program works. All of those values. And fun, if it's not fun, I don't want to do this, right? So, and fun was really my number one value leaving corporate America. I'm like, I want to have fun. Even though this is hard work, I want to have fun, and I want my employees to have fun. I want the franchisees and everybody. So how those work is when you come to make a decision. So how do values work? Because everyone's like, oh, I got values, I have my personal values. Have your set of business values for that business. And if you have multiple businesses, they may have different values. They may not, but they may. It's when a tough decision comes up, that's when you lean into your values. It's really not on an everyday basis. You should be living them on an everyday basis. But it's when there's a tough decision, you look back to your values and you say, okay, according to our values, what's the right answer to this question? What's the right answer to this problem? How do we make a decision that the consequences could be hard, but the decision is correct based on our values? Which means if you use your values, decision making is really easy, even though the consequences may be hard, but the decision's easy. And too many people I've seen when your back's against the wall and it's just a tough situation, you panic, and I watched people make really poor decisions that have compounded on themselves to make even worse decisions that end up torpedoing a business or a relationship or whatever it may be. Whereas if when you lean into your values, you say, well, what's the decision here? Okay. Does this match? Does this conflict with anybody? But no. Okay. Does it match? Yeah. That's the decision. Yeah, but we're going to have to do this, this, and this afterwards. There'll be a lot of fallout. Yeah, there will be. And we're going to have to deal through that. But this is the right decision because it goes into our values. We don't have to recreate the wheel and drag this out forever. So I think everybody has these set of values that they should, but they're not used at the most critical time. And that's when there's a tough decision. Just lean into your values. The decision will become really easy. And then, you have to deal with the forward after that, which may be complex and have some, there may be some hard times because of that decision, but it's still the right decision.
I had never tied these two things together. I know the importance of values, and I'm getting better at seeing how important they are. But I was actually doing it all along because as a paramedic, we train our EMTs and paramedics about values. We don't call them that, but they are airway, breathing, and circulation.
Yeah.
Those are the three values that we try to focus around. Everything else in care revolves around those, making sure the airway's open, that they're breathing, and that the bleeding stops and the heart keeps moving, right? And so when we have those difficult decisions, do I take care of their fractured foot or their fractured leg or the airway, breathing, and circulation? Well, airway, breathing, and circulation are going to come before that broken limb,
Yep.
right? And so, can you give us an example in business of using those values to maybe make a difficult decision, even if the consequences were potentially challenging?
Yeah. I actually write about this in this book, An Insider's Guide to Business. During the pandemic, March 16th, whatever the hell that day was, before the government mandated shutdowns. And again, at that time I still am, was in the group fitness business. So imagine I've got at that time, I don't know, maybe 25 open stores across the nation, all of these franchisees running these businesses. We're all freaking out. Is this the zombie apocalypse? Like, what's going on? What if I get bit? Do I turn into a werewolf? Like, we didn't know, the media was going crazy. But one of our values is trust, right? I said faster, and the T stands for trust. And our member, so think about, everybody's sweating and huffing and puffing in this same room. Well, during COVID, especially with a lot of the news that was early out, that's kind of a scary proposition to be in. You're in a room with a bunch of people sweating and a bunch of people breathing hard, and we don't know what this pathogen is or whatever, what's going on. So we started taking steps of cleaning, fogging, separating people, everything. We were started doing all the proactive stuff we could, but it got to the point, and I remember calling my one of my two business partners in that business at the time, and I remember where I was sitting in my car, where I was looking, and I said, Jeff, went to undergrad, got my MBA, been in business for a long time. If there was a class on how to handle or a book on how to handle a global pandemic, I missed that class. I must have been sick that day because I'm not sure what the hell we're supposed to do here. And he kind of laughed and he said, you already know what the answer is. The decision's easy. The consequences are difficult. And I mean, it's boom, like what I just shared earlier. And so, he said, trust is one of our values. Right now, our members and our franchisees and their staff are trusting us at the home office to make the right decision for them because people are too scared to make a decision right now. None of us know what's going on. And so we mandated that all of our franchise locations shutter the doors. Now, again, we thought it was going to be for 2 weeks, right? We're going to flatten the curve. That ended up being a lot longer for, especially like our California studios and different places. But yeah, we voluntarily shut down, and that could have been the death blow, right? If you shut down all of your locations. But what we ended up doing is within 72 hours, we had spun up an online offering for all of our franchisees to offer their members so they would continue to pay their dues. We had a lawyer draft a letter that could be shared with landlords to get rent relief and at least rent abatement. We started when the state governments kept dragging this out. We partnered with another lawyer who helped us with kind of a HIPAA loophole to be able to reopen and service people but all legally. So it like we didn't panic. We got busy and we executed and we survived. The only way out was through, and we didn't lose a single studio. We didn't not a single studio permanently closed because of COVID, and they all reopened after COVID. And that was a huge win for me, and I'll be proud of that for the rest of our life because the way we reacted to it, and the lesson I learned in real time around lean into your values, and the answer is really, really clear. Tough consequences afterwards and a lot of work, harder than I've ever worked in my life. But the decision was pretty easy.
And I think people could see that. They knew that you had their best interest at heart. And so they trusted you and
Yeah.
they continued to trust you. And I think that the universe rewards that behavior. I really do. When you do the
Right.
right thing,
Yeah.
you're going to
It
be
comes
taken
back to
care
you.
of.
It
Yeah,
comes back to you.
absolutely. Got just a couple more questions for you
Sure.
as we kind of start to wrap up. Roger, what are you doing right that most people get wrong?
Ooh, that's a damn good question, Matt. How do I answer that and not sound like an ass? I will tell you, I was a pretty good student in high school, but not great. College, I got a lot more serious, but still really. I went to Arizona State for undergrad, so come on, it was a party degree. And then I went back and got my MBA when I was working, when I was between like 28 and 30. And I was the guy that sat in the front row, literally sat in the front center every single class and was all about it because I wanted to be there, right? I wanted to be there. What I've really gotten right in the last 10, 15 years is my approach to eternal learning. And my team, I've embedded this in my team. I work to embed this in my franchisees and anybody to listen that we have one life here. And so we should never stop learning. And there's so much to learn and so many ways to grow personally, professionally, relationships with your spouse, with your kids, with extended family, colleagues, with business partners. That's not an easy thing, right? With business partners, and work through that amicably because I continually educate myself. There's never a time that I don't have at least two books going. You and I talked just a little bit before we got on air here. I have a real habit of going back and rereading books. And
Hmm.
sometimes, I'm like, okay, yeah, I remember that the way it was. Other times it's like a whole new person is reading this book because I'm not the same person who read that book. And one saying that I just love is a man can never step in the same river twice because the man is always changing and so is the river. And
Yep.
that's the way education hits me, where I'll read something or watch something and I'm rereading two books right now. And as I'm going through, I'm looking at what I highlighted the first time and I'm like, well, why didn't I highlight these other three things that are actually more important than those things? And so it's just, you're in a different place and you've evolved as a human. And so I think what I've gotten right is and I talked about mentorship before, is I didn't wait for a mentor. I went out and found them almost virtually. I've read Rockefeller's biography and I've read Jeff Bezos and Ben Franklin, and I'm reading Einstein's right now, and Steve Jobs and Elon Musk. I've read all of these because these are giants, and I'd love to stand on their shoulders. And I don't just read it for pleasure. I read it to learn and then apply. And so what I've gotten right is definitely this nonstop continue education, invest in myself, and when you learn something, apply it. Go change behavior. If you just read it, set it down, you're like, oh, that's good. That's good information. Well, I hope you enjoyed the reading because you didn't change anything. Hopefully that was enjoyable time for you. But it's reading, read a 10-page pamphlet and then go take action based on that. That is better than reading a 1,000-page Churchill biography. I just finished that one. Amazing dude, by the way. But like, there's things from reading this Churchill biography that I put into action in my own businesses. Just some of his behaviors, the way he acted as a leader, the way he took ultimate responsibility, and the way he politicked. He was damn good at that. So yeah, Matt, I think it's too many people, if they read, they read and then don't change behavior. I've really pushed myself to continually read, watch YouTube, that, not junk, but educational stuff, and go to seminars and learn, and then go apply that, which I know you do too. Like I just know from me being with you for those 4 days and then talking this morning, like you already shared how you're applying it. That's who wins. The people that learn it and then apply it win. And it's just that just jump off the log. Don't decide to jump off
Jump.
the damn log. Yeah.
I have a saying that to be great, you need to iterate. And that
Mm,
means that there's no straight lines in the universe, and you try and you fail, and you try and
yep.
you fail, and you try and you fail. And if you're listening to this rather than watching it, there's kind of a circular thing, but it's a spiraling up.
Yeah.
And that's the only way to do it because you're going to fail. But
It's
reading the
it,
books, being around the great people, that's how you get ahead.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I came out of undergrad and I thought life was this. And if you're listening, I'm just kind of making a straight, linear upward slope with my hand. That is just not life at all. And it's certainly not business. But you were kind of trained. Well, you get into corporate America, then you get a promotion, make more money, then you get a promotion, make more money. And it's just this linear thing. And man, life, I'm 55. I've just seen that, life is all kinds of up and down and crazy and circular up. But you're right. As long as you keep that flywheel going and go higher, you're growing, you're winning.
Yeah. I remember thinking when I was young and out of college, those adults just don't have it figured out. I now have a degree. I am, here I am, world, welcome to me. And they kind of looked at me like, you're an idiot. And I'm like, you're an idiot. And pretty soon you play both roles, right?
Yeah.
You were here and now you're here. And I don't know, it's worked out. So I try
Yeah.
to share that with our students that you're going to need to figure it out. None of us have a playbook for this. We're all making it up. Even as entrepreneurs, CEOs, we don't have it figured out, but we are doing the very best that we can.
Yeah.
Roger, what are you working on right now? What's exciting to you?
Yeah, I've recently launched, I want to say recently, about a year ago, a company called Thrive More Autopilot. And in my business, and then maybe some of your listeners in their businesses, we own brick and mortars, and my franchisees own brick and mortar locations, which means they have a rent and a lease and labor and all that. And the goal is to generate a lead, right? You advertise, generate a lead, a prospect that says, "Yes, I'd like to learn more about your service." And we service fitness studios, gyms, infrared sauna studios, recovery studios, stretching studios, massage clinics, things like that. Any service based lash things, any service based business. But a brick and mortar, you're trying to generate a lead, but then even though they say, yes, I'd like to learn more, none of us answer our phone anymore. So it's hard to get a hold of those leads to get them to book their first experience so that you can then sell them a recurring revenue membership or package or whatever it may be in these brick and mortar service self-care businesses and health and wellness businesses. And so what I found over many years of doing this is, and we built a digital agency, we could generate leads, but for the business owner to get a hold of those leads and book them, they have to have a pretty well-trained staff and a staff that works relentlessly to do that while they're trying to service current members that are coming in and clean the place and, and take care of all the other stuff in running a business. And then they have trouble because, the average Gen Z is not as comfortable as I'm Gen X, as my generation of face-to-face and that persuasion influence, because I'm an analog digital, analog
Yep.
primary, digital second, and they're digital primary and analog second. And so selling for not everybody, but for a lot of that generation is more challenging to them. It's just a confidence thing. So we built a company called Thrive More Autopilot. You can go to thrivemore.ai, just thrivemore.ai. And we have a digital agency. We can generate leads for brick and mortar service based locations. We then have an conversational AI tech stack that SMSs them. We're almost to voice, where it'll actually call them and have a conversation. We'll be able to tell the difference and book that first appointment so the staff doesn't have to do that. And they can even lower their staffing costs, which saves them money. And then we have a sales accelerator program that is literally made for people who don't like sales. I could have started off this whole 12-week program with, okay, here's how you overcome the I want to think about it objection. But they wouldn't learn from that, because at first we have to fix the limiting beliefs of, I think sales is scuzzy. I think sales is nah. No, it's just you've had that experience, and now that's a limiting belief, which is preventing you from making money and making your studio money. And so we've stacked all three of these services: lead gen, lead nurture, working those leads to get them to show up, and then we'll train your staff on how to sell them so they feel good about it. They don't feel sleazy, and they feel like they've really helped somebody. And we've put that whole package together under Thrive More Autopilot as a business. And you can hear it in my voice. I'm just excited about it because I know how much the market needs this. Whether you're a franchisee of a big brand or you're an independent, you've got to acquire new customers. And you have to do it profitably. And we help automate that. And, like we say, we put your business on Thrive More Autopilot, just put it on autopilot.
I love that.
Yeah.
I was on a call recently with Joe Polish and Dean Jackson. And one of the things that Joe says is the fortune is in the follow-up, and you're automating that. So that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And the other thing I learned is that the average person, when they make a contact with, let's say, a realtor or something like that,
Yeah.
most people think that if I hit them twice with an email or hit them in the first couple months, that if they're not interested, that the lead is dead. But most people go up to 18 months. And so if you're out there and you own a business, you need to be having an 18-month window to stay with that person, like on a drip campaign or an email
100%.
campaign or something like that, postcards, whatever it is. Don't give up after 2 months. That's not going to make you a lot of money.
It's not when we're ready. It's when they're ready.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. What's in it for them? Yeah.
Yep.
So Roger, if somebody wants to know more about you or how they can connect with you, find out more about Thrive More or you as a person, how can they find you?
Sure. If they're interested in getting help with their business from a lead gen, lead nurture, and then even some sales help, they can go to thrivemore.ai and then book a short call. There's no pressure. Leave your credit card at home. We'll just have a nice conversation to make sure it's a good fit. And then if they just want to follow me, they can find me at Real Roger Martin on the socials, and that's ROGER, Real Roger Martin, or LinkedIn.
All right. And what about RockBox Fitness?
Yeah. Go to rockboxfitness.com. One, if you're interested in a great workout that's honestly a lot of fun, feels like you're at a rock and roll show on the hour every hour. But you have a great sweat, but it's like a nightclub feeling, but no barbell, no hangover. And you feel great about yourself. So maybe there's one in your city. We've got 40 some locations open across the nation. And they go to rockboxfitness.com. If they're interested in franchising, they can go to the top right, I think is where the button is for franchising. And it'll just share a bunch of information. Again, no obligation, just to kind of, as you said, it's a process. And so just let us know if you're interested and we'll take you through the process and see if it makes sense for you.
Yeah. I looked on the Google map this morning and I didn't see one in Austin. So I saw that there's some in the Dallas area.
Yeah.
Are you working on bringing some here? Can you?
We had sold the license in San Antonio. They ended up with some other stuff, not RockBox, but some issues where they couldn't move forward. So, because I was excited to have one in San Antonio and then move it to Austin. We do have another brand that I built. We won't talk about, but I built another brand and we with a couple partners, and we sold that recently to Strategic. And we have a couple of those opening in Austin. So I'm touching you in some point, but not with RockBox yet.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I think we'll have to have you back again in the future, Roger, and talk more about franchising, because I'm sure that's something a lot of people have questions about.
Sure.
So anyway,
absolutely.
Thank you so much for your time today. Until next time, thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Want more? Click below for extra resources in our podcast vault. We have show summaries, action plans, and information about coaching.